How's it going, everybody? Jody in here, and I'm back for another episode in my Minecraft Skyblock series. This is All the Mods 9 Skyblock, and I gotta start out with a little bit of an apology. I have been a very, very bad content creator lately. I have left you guys hanging for far too long between episodes here. I actually have 3 episodes sitting in my edit queue, and they're almost ready to be uploaded. They're practically ready to be uploaded. I just have to do the format edit to them, and then they're good. But you know that should have been done a long time ago. It's been weeks since I've recorded most of those, and I've left you guys in the lurch, just hanging without any episodes. I really apologize for that. The episodes in question that I have ready to upload. I have our the first visit to the Nether Fort, and then the next episode after that, we spent time on the beehives here, getting bees and setting up this nice little bee area. And then the other episode, which is the one previous to this, we put up that mage tower. So if you haven't seen those episodes, go watch them before watching this. Once again, all of my episodes are done in playlist. They're all added to the playlist. So when you see a new video posted, don't necessarily just go to that video. Check the playlist. See if there's like 2 episodes, maybe 1, 2, 3 episodes that you may not have seen, because it's going to be a spoiler for you if you watch the most recent episode, like this one, and then go back to see the other ones. That's not really the way I intend for you to watch them, and that's not really the way that that's not how a series works. So I would rather you guys, if you see that I post a new video and you see it's a Minecraft video, go check the Minecraft playlist. Don't just go straight to that video. Check the playlist to make sure there's no other videos. Because like I said, when I upload them, I add them to playlists. All of my videos are done on playlists. So they're easy to see, what videos go with what, and the series of events in those videos. So anyway, today, what are we doing today? I don't even know what the hell I'm doing today. I just had some time, and this is the problem. This is actually the problem, and what I got to work on is usually when I have free time, I'll do a recording, and then I will record right up to the end of that free time, and then I finish the episode, and I don't have free time then. So if I get busy after that, it's kind of like, what now? The video doesn't get edited and it doesn't get uploaded because I'm busy. And it has been one hell of a hectic week. So, well, hectic couple of weeks actually. I've suffered an arm injury. I've been getting diagnosed for that. I started some medication for ADHD, which I am not afraid to admit. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be fearful of. It's nothing to be, singled out for. If you have ADHD, you are not alone. There are others out there just like you. We all have our quirks, and that's one of mine. So, hey, whatever. Medication is actually doing really well though, so that's great. That's actually a big reason of why I haven't been recording, or why I haven't been, spending the time editing, is because my meds have basically freed my brain. I don't know how else to explain it. Stuff that I would usually avoid, like, tidying up the kitchen, cleaning up the bedroom, all that stuff. I can't live in a huge mess, but I can live in a little bit of a mess. So once I started taking my meds, I was like, I can't live in a mess now. I can't live in any mess. I have to clean, I don't have to clean, but it's just I don't come up with the excuses to not clean anymore, if you get my meaning. And if you don't have ADHD, you probably don't understand what I mean. If you do have it, you probably understand. It's like you'll start a project, like to start doing the dishes. Maybe you'll organize the dishes, get them ready. You'll put a load in, and then you'll be like, oh, I have to do this, and then you go do something else. And then that half load of dishes that you prepared just sits there because you've moved on to something else. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to get more of these buildings in. So we're going to work on that. Wait, we're going to work on that today? I think we'll work on that today. I think we'll work on getting in some more buildings. Because last time we did a reset on our characters. That's why you see all of our villagers are walking around, no jobs, no nothing. They're all unemployed. Because at the end of last episode, we pulled up all of the tables, all of their beds, all of their tables, because we were having an issue with them not synchronizing to their workbenches. So that's also why the doors are blocked, because I want to make sure that the villagers synchronize to their beds and to their workbenches in their house. I don't want like one villager walking into a house and claiming the workbench, and then another villager walking into the same house and claiming that villager's bed, basically. Okay, so our next building that we're going to put up is, let's see, what do we have here? We have a cartographer, we have a stone cutter, a grindstone, we have some cauldrons, which is leather working. We have the fletching table. That could be an interesting one to do. And then we have a smoker. So, out of all of those, we cleaned out this building, right? Yeah, okay. Kind of want to get rid of this building. The problem with getting rid of this building, though, is going to be as soon as I tear down this wall, these guys are going to scram and be everywhere. Oh, but I do have mob catchers. You know what? Maybe I could I'll set up a fenced area. I'll set up a small fenced area, like maybe over here somewhere. I'll move them all over there, and then I have the freedom to work over here. I could even do that for the villagers. I could stick them in a... That's actually not a bad idea. Okay. Anyway, so what's going to be our discussion for today? Everybody knows you come to my my game or my videos. Oh, speaking of videos, sorry, just to sidetrack just a second here. Speaking of videos, I am planning on doing a live stream tomorrow morning. That will be April 5th. Hopefully it'll be in the morning. It depends on when I get up. If I'm up late tonight, then it might not be in the morning, because, you know, I don't get up early if I stay up late. I don't know how some people do that, but I don't. So we'll see. We'll see how tonight turns out, and if it's an early night, I'll have an early morning. If it's not an early night, then I'll be sleeping in. But anyways, fact being, tomorrow I do have some free time that I know of, so I will be doing a live stream tomorrow. I wish I could give you the time. I don't know off the top of my head what the time's going to be. If it's in the morning, it'll probably be around 10ish Eastern Standard. If it's going to be in the afternoon, it'll probably be maybe like 1 or 2, probably more like 1. But a good way to get notified is I don't really use my Twitter or X account, whatever the hell you want to call it, account, but it is still linked up so that if you are subscribed to it, or if you are following it, I should say, you will get a notification when I go to stream. And I'm not even sure what does that. I really have no idea what actually does that. Or I would go see if there's, other options. I don't know if it's YouTube that does that, or if it's something else. But it is set up. So, anytime I live stream, it instantly sends out a ping and says, "Hey, I'm live streaming." So that's the easiest way to get notified. I believe it's I still call it Twitter, X or whatever the hell Elon the asshole wants to call it. Stupid. I used to think that guy was pretty awesome, but you know what? He's very not. He's very not. But anyways, we've already had political discussions. Let's talk about something else. Um, like I was saying, whenever I usually do one of these videos or whenever I'm streaming or whatever, we usually have a conversation about something. And today happened to be kind of an interesting day. We got talking about. Well, I got talking with a buddy of mine, and I found out that he's Buddhist, and I didn't know. I mean, I'm the kind of person who I love knowledge. I've always loved knowledge. Knowledge is. I don't say knowledge is power because I don't believe in power specifically. I don't believe a person can really have power over somebody else. It's just a it's a construct. If you believe you have power over somebody else, you're fooling yourself. Because nobody has. It's temporary. It's whatever. But anyway, that's a totally another topic. So anyway, I had questions because, like I said, I believe knowledge is important. So I asked him. I said, being a Buddhist, what do you like? What is involved in it? Like, do you have a god? Do you have whatever? Because I'm really interested. Myself, I'm an atheist, but we'll talk about that later. I'll get into that later because I know a lot of people have feelings about atheism and whatever. But we'll get into that later. So anyway, we're talking. I'm actually interested. I'm like, okay, what do you believe in? And so he told me. He says Buddhists don't really. There's no God, so to speak, in Buddhism. There are. I guess, as he put it, there's not so much deities as there's. I guess deity would be the way to put it. I don't know. Mystics, kind of, but not all Buddhists believe in that stuff. He says basically, to him, Buddhism is more about the lifestyle than anything else, and that. Okay, I was like, okay, what's your lifestyle then? And he was like, well, it doesn't really. It gives you 5 precepts, I guess they were called, and those were that you refrain from taking life, you refrain from you don't take what's not given. I think the third one was sexual misconduct, and then there was like false speech, so lying about somebody or speaking a lie, and then the other one was like what do I want to say? Intoxicants. I think it was intoxicants. So like alcohol and stuff like that. And it's an emphasis. The religion is an emphasis on finding enlightenment, and the way that you find enlightenment is through self-reliance and basically being responsible for your actions, which I thought was an interesting thought. I was like, I think it's very noble if a religion makes you responsible for your actions. And I think that's important. They also have an emphasis on karma, and I'm guessing their karma is a little bit different than the karma that I believe in. Their karma is more like that knowing that your actions have consequences, which actions have consequences. Everybody knows actions have consequences. But it's the belief in that, basically bettering yourself by following the fact that your actions have consequences. And so I was kind of interested in that, and I didn't realize at the time, but Buddha was an actual person, which is another thing that he specifically liked about the belief was that there's actually, you don't have to have faith that something exists. Something actually did exist, and it was tangible, and it was an actual person. And there's more than just written papers. There was actual, there's actual documented history there that he existed and was a person, and had a life and everything that he did. So this got me interested. This got me very interested. Now I'm not ready to convert to a Buddhist because, like I said, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in anything like that. I don't believe in following people or deities or anything like that. Although I did feel that some of my core beliefs are kind of in line with Buddhism, but I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not going to be a Buddhist. Anyway, so moving on from that, I thought, well, how does that kind of compare to, Catholicism? Because I grew up in an Italian town. I still live in the Italian town, and I know a lot of Catholics here. Like I know some serious Catholics here, and I know some Catholics who are not so serious. It seems like there's a gray area. It's kind of a grading system. You have the Catholics who are part of the church, and they go to church every weekend and all that stuff. Then you have the Catholics who are like devout. They just stare down at anybody who's not Catholic, and follow our laws. You're all going to hell, and I'm like, okay. Those are the what I call the turnoffs. They are the ones that turn people away from their religion rather than towards their religion. So yeah, not somebody you want really representing your church. But anyways, so I do have a few Catholic friends, and I had the same conversation because I get into these conversations, and I really like getting into these conversations. I like the debate. I like the getting your brain working and thinking of things in ways that you haven't thought of them before, and it's just for me it's like for me it's just like mental exercise almost. It's like just how much knowledge can one person soak up in their lifetime, kind of thing. But anyway, so talking to them, and I basically kind of asked them the same stuff. They just like to explain the religion and why somebody would follow it, and what they believed in. So the gist of it was, most of them, they believe in a single God. It's actually, they believe in a single God. Okay. I asked them how they got into it. I asked my Buddhist friend how he got into Buddhism, and it was a choice. He chose to follow it. Just one day he was like, you know what, I really like this. I'm going to be a Buddhist from now on, and give it a shot and try it out, and see how things go. And that was it. That's how he started out as a Buddhist. He just decided one day, hey, I'm gonna do this. So I mean, I don't really know if that's a way to pick a religion, honestly. But again, going back to what he told me, Buddhism isn't to him so much of a religion as it's a lifestyle choice. So I guess when you put it into that context, it kind of makes sense that you would get people who just choose to be Buddhist. You don't have to be born into it. Like pretty much everybody I know who is Catholic was born Catholic. Their parents were Catholic, their grandparents were Catholic, they were Catholic. When they were young, they went to church as a family, and they read their Bible as a family, and they talked about God and everything around the table, and they prayed before supper, and all this stuff. So they were born into it. They didn't really choose to be Catholic, although there are people out there who do. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying pretty much every Catholic I know, actually every Catholic that I know, was born into it. So, and then we started talking about other stuff, like the Big Bang, for example, because I'm a big science nerd too. So I was like, well, what are your thoughts on the Big Bang? And most of their thoughts were that God did that. They just like snapped his fingers and boom, their universe created. And then I had to stop them, and I had to say, well, but doesn't Genesis isn't that like backwards to the way Genesis says it was created, the universe was created? I was like, isn't it a contradiction? And one of my friends, they actually gave me an answer that was actually somewhat well thought out. And he was like, well, Genesis is more of a synopsis of what happened rather than the actual facts of what happened. It's how early man perceived what God said. And I was kind of like, huh, oh, okay, well, I didn't push the issue at that point. I didn't really push it. But anyway, then we got into the commandments, because that was a big talking point that I wanted to talk with them about the commandments. Because that's basically, like the Buddhism has the five precepts of Buddhism. Catholicism has the 10 Commandments, and excuse me. So the 10 Commandments, and I was born into Christianity as a in the United Church. So I'm familiar with a lot of this stuff. Not all of it, because Catholics have, they're a little more serious. So I'm not that familiar with all of it, but I am familiar with some things, and one of the things that I am familiar with is the 10 Commandments. So the 10 Commandments, once you get into them, I forgot we had this guy out here. The 10 Commandments, once you get into them, the first commandment was kind of the one that always made me think that it was written by man for man. It wasn't written by a quote unquote God. Because the first commandment was don't worship any other gods. Basically that was the first commandment. It was like I'm the only God, just me, that's it. Follow me. There are no other gods. I'm the only God. You need to believe in me because that's it. It's just me. And when I read that, or when I came to understand that, I was like, that is more of a human message than a deity message, from my point of view. That's more of a human thing. Humans put up barriers. We humans put up barriers. We love to put up barriers. We absolutely adore putting up barriers. You don't believe me? Well, we have continents, right? The continents have shorelines. The shorelines are barriers. Okay, bring that in. We have countries. The countries, they have barriers. There are barriers between countries. The countries have provinces, or they have states, depending on what you're in. You either have provinces or states. They have borders. Your states all have separate borders, saying, okay, this is this state, this is this state, this is this state. If you're in Utah, this is Utah's border. Don't come inside Utah's border. Boom, there it is. We're up here in Canada. We have the provinces. We have Ontario. We have We have Winnipeg, Saskatchewan. We have all the provinces. So, and at one point, even during COVID, we were like, okay, boom, all the borders are closed. You cannot come from Manitoba to Ontario, or you can't go from Saskatchewan to Alberta, or all those borders are closed. We humans love putting up walls. Bring it in further. We have districts. We have districts. We have the district of nearby here. We have the district of Sudbury. I live in the district of Algoma. Is my city called Algoma? No, it's another border. It's a district. We have inside this district Algoma, outside this district something else, and then bring it in further. Then inside the district we have towns and cities. They have borders. Inside the towns and cities we have neighborhoods. They have borders. Inside the neighborhoods we have houses. They have borders. They have fences where the borders are, and people get pissed off if you have your fence in the wrong spot because you are now on my border, or on my side of the border, or have crossed my border. We humans love putting up borders. So when I read this thing that says, don't worship any other gods, boom, you're putting up a border. Do not worship any other gods. Boom, I'm the only God. That's a border. Same with when you go, don't take the Lord's name in vain. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. That once again does not seem like something a deity would say. If I was to run into a deity and they were to give me a list of things, I'm thinking, don't say God damn it. It's not going to be on that list. Or don't in a fit of rage, don't say Jesus Christ. That doesn't seem like something a deity would put on a list. They would have much, much higher thoughts. Their thought process would be way up here. It would be their thought process would be up there. This thought process is down here. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. It kind of goes along with don't badmouth the great leader, or don't badmouth the president. It kind of goes along that level. Oh, you can't badmouth the president. You can't badmouth the great leader. You can't badmouth, some other dictator. Yada yada yada. That's the kind of thing that a dictator would say. Not a high deity who actually loves his children. Keep the Sabbath day holy. Well, back when this was written, keep the Sabbath day holy, when did we actually come up with days? When did we come up with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? When did we come up with this? Because I'll guarantee you, if you go back to when the dinosaurs existed, we have proof that dinosaurs existed, you are not going to find them going, oh, geez, it's Monday. These are human constructs. We created the weekday. We created the weekend. We created the 7-day cycle. The 7-day cycle is not a natural cycle. In fact, it is so off natural that it's not even worth mentioning. The 7-day cycle is not natural. It's actually a mistake. But that's another topic. It's kind of like how 365 days in a year. No, that's wrong too. That's why we have leap years and leap days and leap minutes to correct it, because it's not right. But anyway, I digress. That also is another topic. I'm not going to argue that the calendar's not an amazing thing. It is. It was an amazing accomplishment. It's so amazing we're still using it today. But anyway, moving along. I'm just saying these are not things that a deity would have created. A very intelligent human, oh yes, but not a deity. So continuing along, I'm trying to do multiple things here, and I think my pills are worn off because it's kind of not working. But anyways, so keep the Sabbath day holy. It's kind of like, you would have to have a Sabbath day before you can keep the Sabbath day holy. So this kind of seems like something they made up after they created a Sabbath day. Because once again, we have records of who and when created the calendar, and the calendar is when the Sabbath day was created. So how can the Lord tell us to keep the Sabbath day when we had just created the Sabbath day? But anyway, I digress. Moving along from that, then you have the standards. Honor your father and mother. Once again, we're looking at a control system. We're looking at a control system. We're not telling people, you know, who to honor. We're telling people who to honor. Actually, we've been doing that from the start. We've been, you know, honor no other God than our God. So we're telling you right there that this is the way it is. You need to follow our God, and it's the only God. And then you need to honor your mother and father. I mean, human morals say you should probably honor your mother and father. But what if your father's an abuser? You're gonna honor your father if he's abusing you? Fucking I wouldn't. But you know, I guess to each their own. And then you have some actual morals come in. I guess to lock in these early commandments, you have these other ones that come in that are actually moral, like thou shalt not kill. That's the first one. After you're like, okay, don't take the Lord's name in vain, don't worship any other gods, honor your mother and father, keep the Sabbath day holy, and then thou shalt not kill. Boom. Just hitting you like a brick. Just hitting you like a brick. It's like, oh shit, okay. We have to follow these, because we have to follow all these earlier ones, because now we're getting serious. You should not kill. They hit you with that one first. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. So the other ones must make sense, right? And that's the way we humans think. There's a heavy commandment here, which makes sense, and now all the other ones are valid. Anyway, then we have don't commit adultery, which that's laughable, coming from a Catholic church, coming from any Christian deity or book. Don't commit adultery. Yeah. Anyway, I got a long story about that one. That's for another time. Now you have like don't steal. You know, don't steal. And then we have the last three, which sounds like something that somebody who's running an HOA would have come up with. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. Don't covet your neighbor's wife, and don't covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. What's all this neighbor stuff? Why can't you just say another person? Don't covet another person's wife. Don't bear false witness against another person. Don't covet the belongings of another person. Why can't you just say that? Why is it your neighbor? So you can't covet your neighbor's wife, but you can covet anybody else's wife? Is that what we're saying here? Like these seem like they were written by people for people of a specific time period. They don't seem like they were handed down by a deity who's looking out for all of humanity, an entire globe of humanity. It sounds like something that was written by like a leadership council who says, okay, this is how we want people to behave. You know, don't bear false witness against your neighbor. That's on a city level. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. That's on a city level. That's down here city level. That's not up here global level. That's down here city level. So it just makes me it just makes me think. But anyways, so I mean, I get it. It's a guide. It's a guide on how you should live your life. And it's basically the general rules for how to be a good Christian. Um, so now when I was talking to them about this, I was talking to my Catholic friends about this. I said to them, and I was trying to poke the bear. I will admit that I was trying to poke the bear. Um, and I said to them, flat out, I said aside from you guys, which believe it or not, my Catholic friends are not what I would consider hugely Catholic. They don't really go to church on the weekends. Um, you know, they party and all that. They're they're good people. They are good people. But when it comes to what I would classify as being a Catholic, they don't kind of stand out, if you know what I mean. Um, those Catholics that I have met in my time who do stand out as being Catholic, um, I don't mean to generalize here. I know my experience, my personal experience, is not the same as somebody else's experience, and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody's religion here at all. I'm going from my personal experience. I know there's a lot of good people out there. I know there's a lot of bad people out there. There's a lot of good and bad from all religions and no religions. There's a lot of bad atheists out there. I'm not going to say there's not. I know there is. But my experience living in a town that is very heavily Catholic, also very heavily Italian, which is where a lot of the Catholicism comes from. Um, my experience has been the people who seem to be, or personally claim to be, the most Catholic, the ones who are always throwing out verses, the ones who are always at church every single weekend, the ones who basically have God in their back pocket, they are some of the rudest, most judgmental and corrupt people that I have ever known. Ever known. And I put this to my friends. I said, no offense, but it doesn't seem like the Ten Commandments work because of this. I said people who seem to be the most devout, the most hardened. Um, and again, I'm going from my personal experience. I'm not going from. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying everybody. Um, but they are the most judgmental. Like I said, the rudest, judgmental, and corrupt people I've known. And some of them don't even know they're being rude. They don't even know they're being rude. Like I overheard a comment one time, um, where uh, a very heavily Catholic person said to somebody who had dyed their hair, they said, "Oh, are you having a mental health day?" And I was like, "What?" When I heard that, I was like, "What? That is like, how rude are you? That is not Christian at all. That is the rudest statement you could." First, you're assuming they have bad mental health. Second, you're assuming they need a good health day. And third, you're assuming that because they dye their hair, they have a mental problem? Like, what? They dyed their hair. Is it because it's not a color that you approve of? You seem to think that they have a mental condition? Like what is wrong with you? It's called self-expression. We all express ourselves in different ways. I could have said to her, I could have said back to this person, I could have said, "Well, you're wearing gold earrings today. Are you having a bad health day? Are you having a good health day? You're wearing gold earrings today. I see that you purposely put in your earrings today. Are you having a bad health day?" Like, it comes off the same way. It's just ignorant and rude. And it makes no sense, really. Really, the comment makes no sense. And this person is devout. They're like trying to get people to follow them, and they're trying to, and they believe anybody who's not, Catholic is something's wrong with them. And it's like I just don't get it. I don't get it, because that is not how your religion is basically supposed to be. That's not how you're supposed to behave. That's not how you're supposed to behave. Although I guess nothing in the Ten Commandments says, be a good person, which is kind of. I would think that would be in there if I was a deity. I think probably my commandment number one would be a good person. That would probably be my first one. Be a good person. Just plain and simple. Be a good person. you know, be good. Be good. Commandment number one. Be good. 2 words. Done. you know. So anyway, so then I started talking to them. I'm like, well, how do these people? Because I know some of them are corrupt, and I know some of them. I know some that have committed adultery. Um, I have an ex-wife who was devout Catholic who committed adultery. I know some of them steal, and there's different ways of stealing. As a business person, you can steal from somebody just by overpricing and gouging. That's theft. So that's you know. So I'm like, okay, how can you be a bad person as a Catholic and follow this thing where you have to be a good person to get into heaven, or you got to follow these commandments to get into heaven, or whatever. And your soul is you're judged. You're judged when you get to the gates or whatever. So I'm like, how do these people expect to get there behaving this way? And one of them spoke up. None of them wanted to speak up. They were all kind of like, they were kind of done with me at that point. but I was like, one of them spoke up. They said, "Well, we do have a confession." And I was like, "Oh, well, I've heard of confession before, and I know it starts off like, 'Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned,' whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, well, explain this to me." And they're like, "Well, you go into confession on basically, you can go into confession anytime you're at the church. It doesn't have to be on a Sunday." What am I looking for? I don't know what I'm looking for here. Let me run back out to the. I want to put up another building here. Yeah. Anyway, so we're talking confession, and I'm like, okay, explain this to me. And so you go into some have a private chamber where you go. Some will just see you in confession, like in an office, or even in the privacy of just sitting out in the church when nobody else is there. Confession can take all kinds of forms. It's not necessarily in a box with you on one side and the priest on the other. It can take many forms. But anyway, so I was like, okay, so you go to confession, you confess your sins, and then you're granted absolution. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like a get out of jail free card, isn't it? It just means your sins didn't happen magically. And then you're like, well, you have to do a penance, and I'm like, well, okay, well, a penance sounds like, okay, you're paying for your crime, okay. So I'm like, what is a penance? And he said, well, most commonly, penance is a prayer, and sometimes one of them had to perform um, an act towards the church, an act of charity towards the church. And I was like, okay, so let me get this straight. If you sin, you have to dig further into the religion. You have to become more devout, because now you have to pray. You have to pray, or your penance can be helping out the church. This seems almost self-serving from the church's perspective, because you have somebody who's falling away from the church. Well, now we're going to get them to pray, and now we're going to get them to pray, and we're going to get them to work in the church. We're going to get them to volunteer for the church. Get them to perform some volunteer action for the church. So it's benefiting the church both ways. You're benefiting you're not benefiting humanity. You're benefiting the church. So I'm like, is confession really? It seems like a way to get you to be more involved with the church. If you're a sinner, in order to repent, you have to get more involved with the church. You're not actually paying for your sin in any way. You're just doing more for the church. You're getting in deeper by the sounds of it. It seems more like a brainwashing system to me. So it's like you do wrong, you spend more time in the church. It's like if you do bad at school, you end up having detention. Well, what do you do in detention? More schoolwork. Or you just sit there. But in either case, you're at the school. You're still at the school. You're not helping anybody else. You're just there. You're not benefiting anybody else. You're just there. So it's again again I really had to I had to ask, like, I had to dig into them a little bit at this point. I was like, do you even see what I'm seeing here? Okay, because I'm trying to understand this. I'm trying to understand what they're telling me. Um, and I'm trying to take it in as somebody who is not Catholic, as somebody who's not Buddhist. I did the same thing with the Buddhist. The Buddhist made more sense to me because it was, like I said, it's a way of life and a way of living as a good person, and their system is basically an emphasis on karma, where your actions have consequences, and your percepts are basically be a good person. Don't take a life, don't take what's not given, don't perform sexual misconduct, don't speak, don't falsely speak of somebody, and don't let yourself get intoxicated or whatever out of control. I mean, to me, that just seems more like how to be a good person. You know, um, and there's no absolution from it. There's no absolution from your sins in Buddhism. It's you are responsible for your actions. And I'm only comparing the two because that's really the only conversations I had. Uh, I could go into other religions if I had conversations with people about their religion. But that's basically the people I spoke to. But anyways, so I was kind of like I was at that point I was like, okay, so these people are assholes just because they realize that their faith is gonna let them off the hook just by saying, just by repenting. And kind of basically all of them agreed to that. They were like, well, yeah, sort of. I was kind of like, oh, interesting, interesting. Okay, so 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 Catholicism teaches you that you can be saved. You can be an asshole, but you can still be saved as long as you do penance for being an asshole. That sounds more that sounds more like a government to me than something set down by a deity. But anyways, I digress. Um, so then we got into the actual facts, and I hit him with how do you know your religion's, like, how do you know your God's real? How do you know your religion is factual? How do you know? And pretty much all of them said, well, we got the Bible. And that was basically it. It's written in the Bible. And I had several arguments for that. But I think the best arguments I had, I mean, I went with the typical stupid arguments first. I was kind of like, well, I read in a book one time this guy named Harry. He goes to a school and he becomes this powerful wizard, and he fights evil and all that. I heard about, you know, I read that in a book somewhere. Um, you know, and then in this other book, uh, there was this real evil guy who had a ring. He made a ring, and that ring let him control, all these other people, and But they fought. They rose up against him. They rose up against him and they defeated him. And they got rid of the ring so that everything would be safe. I read that in a book somewhere. Read that in a book too. So the fact that you have a book that's got writings in it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So then they were like, well, that's kind of silly because we those are stories and they're written. I'm like, well, the Bible's kind of a story, isn't it? Like, it's a story. It tells the tale of a. It tells the tale. It tells a very good tale of a person and a deity, and his followers. It tells a good story. It is a good story. I'm not going to deny that, but there's nothing I see in the book that says it's anything more than just a book. So, and then I had to start hitting them with facts. I was like, did you guys even know that the earliest manuscripts of the Bible were written hundreds of years after Jesus had actually died, or supposedly died? They're written hundreds of years after. So, when they were written, nobody was alive that was from that time. So there was nobody alive when Jesus lived who was still alive when the Bible was written. They're from two completely different time periods. You have Jesus over here, and then hundreds of years later, you have the Bible being written. So there is no first-hand experience. The Bible is not a first-hand experience. The Bible is something that was passed on or created. That's the only way it could have been. That's it. It could either have been passed on verbally through stories. We all know how stories can change, but it was either passed on verbally through storytelling, or it was just created. and my second argument was that just because something's written doesn't make it fact. I mean, you're a Christian, so you believe the Bible is the truth. But it's because it's written there. It's the word. But if you go to Egypt, you can find written words about other gods. Like, for example, Ra. That's written down. That's factual. It's carved in. It's written. It's here. This is Ra. Ra is a god. Ra is a deity. Or Osiris, or whoever. They're there. They exist. They're written down from the time period. Or you can go into the Romans. Romans had writing. Romans wrote down about their gods. They had Jupiter, which is aka Zeus, and all the pantheon. That's all written down. It's all written. It's all handwritten. Boom, there it is. Just as much as the Bible. Just as factual as the Bible. In fact, if you were to place them on a level of factual, you have written here, you have written here. Boom. They're even. They're equal. there's no saying. You can't say God exists and Zeus didn't, or Zeus doesn't. You can't say that, because that's faith. That's all that is. It's faith, and that was their argument. At the very end, that became their argument. One of them brought up the Shroud of Turin, and I mean, there's people who will believe the Shroud of Turin. I don't, because we've already carbon dated the thing, and it's proof that it's been proven that the cloth came from a time that was way after Jesus' supposed death. So I don't know who was on the Shroud of Turin, but it's not Jesus, because, like I said, carbon dating doesn't lie. It's fact. But anyway, they ended it up with, that's why religion requires faith. And I'm like, not all religions require faith. Going back to my Buddhist friend, not all religions require faith. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the cartography table. I want to make an interesting building, but I don't just want to make a straight up building. And I'm trying to formulate this in my head. I'm trying to come up with a picture in my head of what this building should look like. And it's I feel like it should be. I feel like it should almost be an observatory kind of style, but I don't know how to make an observatory. Um. Anyway, moving along. So they were like, we just have faith. That's why our religion has faith. You have to have faith that God exists. You have to have faith that Jesus exists. You have to have faith. I'm like, okay, well then that's not real proof. That's just faith, and I respect that you have your faith. Um, they didn't really sell it. They didn't really sell it. The Buddhist thing was kind of he kind of sold it. He was like, it's not a religion. I'm not following any kind of deity or anything like that. I don't believe in mythical beings, whatever. I just believe that karma's going to bite you in the ass, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I can get behind that. But I'm not a Buddhist. I myself am an atheist. Um, and now when it comes to atheism, atheism is a general term. I mean, a Buddhist can also be an atheist. If you generalize the term enough, a Buddhist is an atheist. Because they don't believe in a deity, which is basically all atheism is I don't believe in a deity. Although, like I said, it's a general term. Some people atheism is I don't believe in a religion, but atheism itself can be a religion. So, there's kind of a confusion there. But anyways, myself as an atheist, I don't believe in a god. I do not. I don't believe there's some mystical deity looking over my shoulder, looking over my head, whatever. I don't believe in it. I do believe in like energies. Um, I do believe in, for example, the Big Bang. I believe in the Big Bang. I believe the science behind the Big Bang, and I do even follow some of the theories of what could have existed before the Big Bang because they make sense. For example, one of the theories, and one that I actually came up with before hearing it, it's one that made sense to me, was that before the Big Bang was a big crunch, and the previous universe collapsed into an infinite point and then exploded back out. To me, that's kind of the most logical thing. Um, there's another theory out there that the universe basically existed as dark matter and then matter formed at the point of the Big Bang, which also makes sense. That's why you would have a Big Bang, because matter and dark matter. Well, it's not matter and dark matter; it's matter and antimatter. But basically, getting back to that point was the fact that there was dark matter in the universe, and then matter formed, light matter, whatever you want to call it, and that's what exploded outwards, pushing the dark matter away. That's why it's expanding from one point. Um, the third theory that I kind of follow, and it's one that also kind of makes sense to me, is that our universe erupted from a parent universe, and this makes sense to me because of how black holes seem to work, um, and it's almost I almost feel like black holes could possibly be the starting point for other universes. Whereas you have a black hole that just sucks in all this matter, all this matter, all this energy, all this everything gets sucked into a black hole, right? Where does it go? Where does it go? Does it stay in that infinite point of a black hole, or does the black hole go somewhere, or does the black hole store it, and then all of a sudden it erupts somewhere, vis-a-vis a Big Bang? There's so many questions that we can't answer because of the way the Big Bang works. And I don't think we'll ever have an answer to what happened before the Big Bang or what existed before the Big Bang. We got plenty of theories, but I don't ever think we'll know because the way our biology is. We're designed not to know what happened before the Big Bang because we have senses, and our senses limit us. So, for example, if we wanted to see the Big Bang, we can't see the Big Bang. Why can't we see the Big Bang? Because in order to see something, you have to be at a specific point in space at a specific time when the light from that event reaches you. And we can't do that. We can't do that. So we can't be at a point where we are ahead of the Big Bang in order to see the Big Bang happen. We can't be ahead of the light of the Big Bang to see the Big Bang happen. You know what I mean? We can't see it because it's already past us. We would have to leave our planet and go further out into the galaxy, like further than anybody's ever traveled before, further than any planet's ever traveled before, or any speck of space dust has traveled before. We would have to go way out, beyond the edge of the actual Big Bang explosion. We would have to get beyond the edge of that in order to look back and see the Big Bang happen. You can't do it. You can't do it. We would have to get in front of the flash of the Big Bang. It's just not possible. So I don't think we'll ever see the Big Bang. We have no way of doing that. Now, sound waves from the Big Bang, we have proof of. That's how we know it happened. And I'm sorry I'm getting into more of a discussion here than actually anything in Minecraft. I do intend on building something. It's just I'm having trouble wrapping my brain around what I want to build for the cartography. But anyway, back to our conversation. The sound waves from the Big Bang we can actually hear. The problem with that is we can hear the sound wave of the Big Bang, so we can't hear anything before the Big Bang because we hear the Big Bang. If that makes sense, we have the background radiation. We can hear that from the Big Bang, but because that fills our entire spectrum, we can't hear what happened before the Big Bang. It's kind of like listening to a stereo and then somebody cranks up a louder stereo. And I'm not talking about like a little bit louder. I'm talking ear deafening. I'm talking you're at a concert trying to hear your phone on speaker while the music's playing. You're not going to hear the phone. You can't hear the phone. There's no way you can hear the phone. Even if you had a microphone held like hanging above your head, that microphone would not pick up your little cell phone speaker. It would pick up the stereo. It would pick up the giant sound system in the stadium. You know? So even the sound that was before the Big Bang, if sound even existed before the Big Bang, I don't know. Maybe it was sucked in. Maybe sound was also in that infinite little point of energy that exploded. So I mean, there's so many theories. There's other theories that were like maybe the universe was just energy and the energy coalesced and erupted into matter. We know matter can be converted to energy, and energy can be converted to matter. We know this conversion can happen. So maybe at one point, all there was energy, and it erupted into matter, and that was the Big Bang. That's another theory I subscribe to. That's a very strong theory. I feel that's a very strong theory. Between all the theories, I think the crunch, the where the previous universe contracted and then exploded again. I think that one's plausible. That one's one of the most plausible, and the other one is that all that existed was energy, and then matter erupted. I think that's that's probably number 2 in my list of plausible. When I think about it. But anyways, again, you don't need a god for this stuff to happen. You don't. So again, being an atheist, moving along, what are my beliefs? Well, my beliefs are somewhat in the Buddhist category. I believe that what you do is a reflection of who you are. If you are a good person, you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. But you are in control of that. You are responsible for that action. I believe there's a balance to the universe. I don't think that, when you look at the universe, there's a balance to everything. Gravity has a balance. Electricity has a balance. Even molecules. neutrons, everything's got a balance. There's a balance in everything. Everything has balance. Even nature has balance. If you throw that balance off, bad things happen. And I feel that that is how life works too. That is how everything works. That is how your existence in this universe works. Balance. And it goes both ways. And I've seen this myself. If I have too much good happening, something bad always happens. If I have too much bad happening, all of a sudden something good happens. It always seems to balance out. Now, there's ways that I can tip it. If I stop going to work, bad shit's going to happen, But again, that goes back to being responsible for your own actions, If I just stop going to work, bad shit's going to happen. I'm going to lose the roof over my head. I'm going to lose my vehicles. I'm going to lose, internet and everything else. That's just going to happen. It's not all of a sudden going to magically work its way out and balance itself out. No, bad shit's going to happen because, that's what I'm controllable. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. What I'm talking about is what you put out as far as your intentions. If you do everything with good intentions, good happens. If you do everything with bad intentions, bad is going to happen to you. That's the balance. If you are greedy and you go and steal stuff, you are going to get in trouble. If you don't get in trouble, something else bad is going to happen to you. That's the balance. And then as far as passing away, because we talked about, the pearly gates with Catholicism. As far as passing away, I don't believe in an afterlife. I believe once you pass away, that's it. You're done. You're done. Big black. You're gone. We are what we are. We are a biological entity. When our biology fails, that's it. We shut off. Big black. Once you pass away, the only thing that remains is what you left behind. That's it. That's why you have to live your life as if it's the only life you have to live. That's why. That is why. If you want to leave something behind, you have to leave something behind. If you want to be remembered, you have to go out being remembered. If you, well, good or bad. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are remembered for bad things, but you know what? They live on because they're remembered for their bad things. And that's the way it works. That is the way it works. If you want to be remembered, you have to be remembered. If you want to live beyond your life, the only way to do that is by what you leave behind. Some people, it's children. Some people, it's what they've done, their accomplishments. Some people, it's advancements in medicine, science, technology. Some people, it's building a video game. Some people, it's what you do to be remembered when you're gone. Because that's it. That's the only way to exist beyond your life. Beyond your life. Along with that, graveyards. What can I say about graveyards? I think they're our human attempt to leave something behind. You may not be remembered, but your gravestone's there. So somebody walking by, you're going to see it one day. For me, I look at it as a memorial. That's all I look at it as. It's a memorial. Do I want to be put in a graveyard? No. No, I don't want to be put in a graveyard. What do I want to be put in a graveyard for? Who's gonna go stand at my grave? Somebody might go visit it once a year, and make themselves feel better. But who's it for? It's not for me. I'm dead. I don't care. I may have made this a little bit too close to these buildings. Because now if I put another building in here, it's going to look weird because there's going to be a walkway coming out to the road. Okay, so I want to do kind of like an observatory, but I'm not sure how to do an observatory. Do I even have? Do I have telescopes and stuff? I don't. Hmm. Oh, no. That's for something else. I don't really have any decorative anyway to make like a telescope or anything like that. Should I just build him a house? Should I just like build him an actual like just a house? I feel like I should just build him a house. Or maybe like okay, I have a thought. I have a thought. Okay. I guess I can use this now. Cobble there. Cobble there, cobble there. Yeah, you know what? Let's just do it in cobble anyways. Let's do it in cobble anyways. Okay, so I want I'm not gonna have any buildings over there, so this is gonna look a lot like that. And I don't want it to. Damn. I could put it down. I could put it down at this end, but then I might have a building. I'm gonna have a building in front of it. You know the fish stuff there. It probably would have been better there than over. Yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna. Just do it. Okay. So let's outline this. Oops. I'll do a couple of rows here. Go like this. Sorry for all the discussion, but I hope you enjoyed it. I found it intriguing today, so I just wanted to kind of share that. Found the conversation to be intriguing. This might be too big. Bring it down. Yeah, so I thought I'd share that. Once again, like I don't really what's the word I'm looking for? I don't look down on people for their religion. I look down on people for the way they behave, but I don't look down on people for their religions. So if you are one of the religions I spoke of, like, you know, you can speak up. You can say your own little spiel there. Like I said, pretty much everything I'm discussing here is from my own experience. So if you have a different experience you want to express or you want to comment about, feel free. Feel free. Oh, for crying out loud, I'm out of food again. Oh, wait, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, so that was basically the discussions I've had. they were very interesting. I did learn some things, which that's really the whole goal of it. The whole goal of it is not to, you know, tell people their religion is right or wrong. It's to have healthy discussions, healthy debates, ask healthy questions. You know, get everybody thinking. Not just getting them thinking about their religion, but getting everybody's brains working, getting everybody thinking about thinking, really. It's healthy to use your head. It really is. It is healthy to use your head. So, like I said, I don't degrade anybody for their beliefs. Everybody's free to believe whatever they want to believe. Just like I also believe people are free to not believe whatever they want to believe, or whatever they want to not believe. I should say. I think it's a very close-minded, way to be. If you believe that people aren't allowed to think or believe things other than you. I find that to be a very closed-minded way of thinking. Because that's how a lot of our advancements actually happened. A lot of our advancements actually happened because people stepped outside the box and said, hey, I believe something different than you. And look, we got science. we got... How the... You need to get out of my house. I'm going to swat you out of my house. And then drag your llama outside and swat it out of the house. Oh, for crying out loud, really? Actually, I could just do this. Oh no, I can't. I can't pick you up. Can I pick you up? I can't pick you up either, can I? Where are you even? Why are you hiding? You know what? I'm gonna go to sleep so you reappear. So I can deal with you proper. But yeah, that's... I'm always up for healthy discussions and healthy debates. Not getting personal or anything. There's no reason for anybody to get personal about anything. It's all healthy discussion. People are allowed to believe whatever they want to believe. As long as it doesn't harm another. Where did you go? There you go. Put those in there. Okay. Do this for the floor. Nice light wood, because this is going to be a place of learning. This is the map maker. This is going to be a nice place of learning. Okay. So I want to have... Ooh. I just had an idea. So I definitely want this to be a place of learning. It's got to look the part. So I want it to be light colored. Maybe we'll go with the diorite. I want it to be light colored. I want it to be very open. Very wise. I want wise. And how much leather do I have? That's not where I'm looking. I'm looking up here. I have 127 leather. How much paper do I have? None. How much? Oh, I got a shit ton of books. Well, we'll just do this then. Really? This is what we're doing? Okay, we'll do the... Oh, I gotta hold it down for... Yeah, okay. That's my bad. I wasn't holding it. Where'd they go? Oh, they went in my... Duh. Okay, they're down in my inventory. Alright. I don't necessarily need 48 of them. But I do want to have... Nice... It's going to be a place of learning. I want to have... Still have to be able to get up to the next floor, though. Okay, so how about we do... No, too many books. I should say too many books. I should say not enough other stuff. starting to get a tickle. Dry throat. Ha! Oh, I forgot that comes up when I mute. Okay. So we're gonna go with maybe about here. And then over here. Okay. I can deal with that. Okay. That corner here. Okay. I can definitely deal with that. Alright. Now we're going to need a lot more of this polished diorite. Polished cut diorite. This is going to be our main walls. Ow. Whee! Alright, you. This is how we have a bad time. Dang it, couldn't get it back in. Hate when that happens. Alright. Don't you dare pull stone in. Okay. Not sure how much I'm going to need of this. I'm probably going to need quite a bit. Should be good. Okay. Yes. Put this back up here. And chew away at that. Throw that in there. Till all the cobble's gone. And gone. Oh shit, there's one more stack. Ah, go away. 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 Oh my gosh. Oh. Alright. That was way too much effort. Alright, so I want from here around, I want this. So yeah, that was the interesting conversations we had today. At least I thought they were interesting. It's always fun getting people thinking. And it's always fun being someone who gets thinking. Did that make sense? I don't know if that made sense. Oops. I gotta figure out where the hell I'm putting a door here. I was gonna put it here, but then I was gonna put a window there. That wouldn't work. Unless... Okay, wait a minute. If I put the door here... Move the window over to this side. No, because I want the window over here. Let's see. There's a doorway. I want a nice, large window, but I don't want it flat. I don't want a flat window. But we push these two blocks out. Can you... Yeah! Worse than my cat. Okay, put those there. Bring this out like this. Then we do the window. Should probably get to do it here though. That works. Okay, and as for here, we'll put our staircase here. Whoop. Good thing I made all these books. Oh, that doesn't work. I don't like that. We'll put the oak logs here on the end. That's better. Okay. Yes, this looks more functional. All right, let's go get. Excuse me. How am I gonna capstone this? I guess I could cap it with the logs. That kind of seems a little annoying. What else we got for the diorite? Where's our stone cutter? Yes. What do we got for the diorite? Ooh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so these, excuse me, diorite pillars. We'll use that as our capstone. I like those pillars too. Nice. Okay. So that's going to be our... That's not going to work. Not unless I do something like that. That'll work. Okay. I need birch slabs. Oops. Birch slabs. We have to get birch slabs. I think we're done with the books, and I think we're done with the... we're done with these. We're done with these. We're not done with the diary yet. Still want the diary. And hold on to... hold on to these two just in case. Hold on to oak logs. Photography table. Okay. So I need birch slabs. Excuse me. I need birch slabs. So yeah, as I was saying, I would be interested. Be interested in some conversation on the topic at hand. Maybe were you born into a religion? Do you still follow that religion? If so, what's your core belief? What's your core belief in that religion? Like, why do you follow it? What is it to you? What does it mean to you? What do you get out of it? You know, kind of thing. And then maybe if you had some kind of maybe you had some kind of experience that led you to that religion. Maybe it's more than just being born into it. Maybe, maybe there's some kind of event in your life that led you into that. I mean, that would be kind of cool to hear. Like I said, it's all about knowledge. I don't necessarily feel knowledge is power. You know, like the saying goes. But I do feel that a person who is knowledgeable experiences more wonder in the world than a person who is closed-minded. And that's just the way I feel about it. I feel that if you are closed-minded, you've lost that wonderment. That, you know, this famous saying, you lose the wonder of like the child with the closed box. What's in the box, kind of thing, you know. You lose that wonder. You lose that mystery if you don't ask questions. And I don't know anybody. I don't know why anybody would want it that way. I don't know why anybody would choose to be that way. Why would you want to close yourself off to the wonders of, you know, knowledge, and what knowledge can teach you, not only about yourself, but about the world around you, about your place in the universe, kind of thing. About how vast the universe is and how extremely small we are. You know, when it comes right down to it. Yeah, when it comes right down to it, that's the fact. That's the fact. The universe is vast, and we are but a speck in its existence. You know, as the saying goes, does the universe even? The universe is so old. Does it even notice your existence? Does it even know when you've existed? Does it know when you leave? And I think that's actually a very logical question. It's a very healthy question too. I think the coolest explanation I ever heard for us was, it actually was in a TV show. It was an old episode of Babylon 5, I believe it was, and the Minbari race had a very unique way of looking at the universe. They kind of believed that that were projections, kind of like light on a wall, and that light comes in from somewhere else. But we perceive. The only thing we perceive is this form, because this is the only form we can perceive. And I think the final statement was, "We're the universe trying to figure itself out. We are star stuff." I think that I think when I heard that, that's kind of made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I was like, ooh, that is good. Now, do I believe it? No, not really. But is it cool? Yes. Is it a really cool theory? Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. 100% cool theory. But again, it's not a belief I share. But I'm not going to say it's not cool, because it is hella cool. I wish there was a way to get these without. Dang it! Come here, magnet. Ding. I got to do that to all of this, all the way up. Because I made the walkway too far over. So yeah, I think that was one of the coolest statements I've ever heard as far as our existence. And again, they don't really believe in a god. They were kind of more like Buddhists. They believed in a guy named Valen, who actually existed. He was one of the characters in the show. You find out later he was one of the characters in the show. I'm not going to spoil it in case anybody wants to go see or wants to watch it, because it is a worthwhile watch. It's an awesome, amazing sci-fi show. Unfortunately, it's from a long time ago. it no longer exists. But it was a very cool show, and I thought that whole premise was a very interesting way of putting a religion. You don't necessarily believe in a deity. You just kind of believe. I guess it was it almost seemed like a mix of Buddhism. It was very, very Buddhist. However, there were some other notes, some other. What's the word I'm looking for? Other aspects that were taken from other religions. But I found it interesting. I found the idea interesting that they were putting forward. And they did actually have a lot of religious stuff on that show. Here and there. Characters were religious, and they were actually religious characters. And I think it was important to them, and that was kind of stupid. I think it was important to the creators of Babylon 5 that they made sure religion existed, because religion was actually part of the main story. Religion was actually part of the main story. Although I can only imagine what Catholics thought when they saw where Jesus came from. But yeah, I just find it so interesting. There are so many different theories on religion out there, and I call them all theories, because no one knows for sure. If you don't know for sure, it's a theory. So even if you have a religious text, even if you have a Bible, even if you have a Quran or whatever, it's all theory. And it will always be theory. There's no way to prove it. So, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting delving into all these little theories and getting feedback. getting feedback on them in school too. What people believe, why they believe it, you know, that kind of stuff. I think there's also something interesting about the growth of atheism. And I think it says something about humanity. Nah, I don't like that. I think it says something about humanity. That we are kind of, we're growing at the same time we're questioning our growth. We're questioning where we came from. We're questioning, and it's a healthy questioning where we came from, questioning what we've been taught instead of just taking it at face value, and questioning those that taught us. I don't necessarily agree with everything that goes on in that regard. Excuse me. For example, I could take one example from Canada, which is, you know, my home and native land, and that is the whole John A. Macdonald thing. If you're not Canadian, you probably don't know anything about it. I would be very surprised if you did. But John A. Macdonald was the architect, and there were many, but he is the main architect behind the creation of the Intercontinental Railway across Canada, which was the first true way of sending products from coast to coast, or resources, I should say. I shouldn't say products. I should say resources. It was the first major way in Canada, or main way in Canada, of sending resources from place to place, from coast to coast. And arguably, by him doing that, he had a huge impact on making Canada. And we Canadians nowadays owe him a lot for that. At least that's my opinion. Now, there are other opinions out there that say he was a monster. There's other people out there that say he was a monster because he hired Chinese workers, basically paid them slave wages to do a extremely dangerous job. Hundreds of them were killed. Well, yeah, I don't think it got up to thousands, but there were there were numerous deaths during the creation of the railway. And there's some people who nowadays look back on that and go, this guy was not a good person. He should not be idolized. He should not be respected. He should not, you know, we don't owe him anything. He's a horrible person. Tear down his statues and erase him from history. And for me, when I come across that, my opinion towards it is basically, how dare you? How dare you? Did he have slaves? Well, I don't know that he had slaves. Did he have Chinese workers for him? Yes. Did he pay them? Did he underpay them? Yes. Are there people nowadays, today, who are working in jobs and underpaid? Yes. Did people die under his construction practices? Yes. Did people, was that a normal thing back in that time? Yes. It was normal back then. People died all the time. There's not a single bridge in existence today that was built back then where people didn't die. It was, there was no. So what people today don't realize is, back then, when the country was being built, when people were laying the first foundations, when people were laying the first rails, there was no such thing as occupational health and safety. It didn't exist. It did not exist. You did what you had to do to get the job done. That was the mindset of that day. We are taking on these monumental tasks, and in order to get them done, we have to do what we have to do to get them done. That was the attitude back then. And that's the attitude they had to have. They had to have that attitude, or shit wouldn't have got done. And I think it's super hypocritical for us to sit here nowadays. Well, I'm saying us as a general term, because I know not everybody. There are a lot of people out there who share my feeling on this too. It is so hypocritical for us to be going, oh, he was a horrible person, when we are sitting here today benefiting from what he did. We're benefiting from it. Do you have a Walmart within 5 blocks of you? Probably. Or some other store that has, you know, some product that came from across country? Absolutely. Absolutely you do. Do you have products that came from another part of the country? Absolutely you do. How did they get there? Probably by train. They probably arrived by train. Your home was probably built from materials that came on a train. You're benefiting from that cross-country travel. If you're in Eastern Ontario, or if you're in Eastern Canada, and you have gasoline, you know where that gasoline came from? It came on a train. And I know some people are probably going, well, it came on a transport. Yeah, it came on a transport the last few miles. Or it came on a transport, maybe from the province over. It came from the transport, maybe from the province over. Or maybe from a supply depot. But guess what fed that supply depot? A train. So you are benefiting from all those people that died to put in that railroad. So instead of looking at one person and saying, man, he was a horrible person, why don't you look at the people who gave their life to build that and say, thank you, that was amazing. Thank you for risking your life. Thank you for sacrificing yourself to make this country great. Not only for us, but for excuse me, for their young too. There are families in Canada today whose ancestors died on those railways, making those railways. That's part of our heritage. That's part of the heritage of Canada. That's it. It was people doing what they had to do to make shit happen. And we can look at it today and go, wow, we would never do that today. We'd never send somebody down a tunnel with nitroglycerin, hoping that they don't drop the bottle and blow themselves up. We'd never do that today. Well, of course, we don't have to do that today. We have remote detonators. We have safer explosives. How did all that come? How did all that happen? Advancements. Where those advancements come from? Hello! They didn't have that back then. They didn't have remote detonators. They didn't even have TNT. They had nitroglycerin in bottles. That's what they used. Bottles of nitroglycerin. So, I think it's pretty hypocritical for us to look back at the people who built this country and judge them based on some kind of sense of morals that we have today, where we don't have to do that nowadays. In fact, we find that kind of activity repulsive nowadays, but we only find it repulsive because there are safer ways of doing it. That's the only reason we find it repulsive. If we didn't have safer ways to do it, guess what? That's the way it would be done today. If we didn't have remote detonators, guess what? People would be walking down there with explosives. If we didn't have det cord, guess what? Somebody would be lighting a fuse and running for their life. Like, we are in the realm of spoilage. We are spoiled, and that spoiling has caused us to forget how hard life was back then. And that I think is the biggest tragedy of the whole thing. Is the fact that we sit here and talk ill of these people, talk ill of these great Canadians who built this country. We have the audacity to talk bad about them because they did what they had to do to get you done. And I don't think it's right. I think the people who are running these campaigns against these great people, I think they're misguided. They're definitely misguided. And I don't think they really get what it's about. I don't think they really understand another time period. I don't think they understand another time period. They can't fathom. They can't fathom that kind of a working environment of getting up in the morning, going to work, knowing you're going to handle explosives, knowing that you may not come home. I don't think their minds can wrap around that reality. And because their minds can't wrap around that reality, they can't understand people like Sir John A. Macdonald, for example. They can't understand them. They don't understand why he did what he had to do, or why he used Chinese labor or Chinese slave labor, or it's kind of even looking back to before. Excuse me. Looking back to before. Come on, words. Oh, for crying out loud! I can't think of it now. Before the American Civil War. Looking back before the American Civil War. You had slavery. It was acceptable. Why was it acceptable? Because that's the way it was. That's the way life was. That's the way fields got sown. The families did not have enough people, enough workers to farm the fields, so they had to have slaves. There were not enough people. There were not enough people to run the houses. There were not enough people to do this, that. So they bought slaves. And now, I'm not condoning slavery by any means. I'm not. I'm just saying we today don't have a right to sit around and go, that person was evil because they owned slaves. That would be like somebody looking at us, a couple hundred years in the future and going, oh, that person was evil because he had TikTok. Are you an evil person because you had TikTok? Are you an evil person because you're on Facebook? Are you an evil person? You know, in the future, they might think that. How would you look to somebody from the future whose morals are superior to yours? Maybe their morals are superior. Maybe in the future, maybe in 100 years, 200 years, they look at social media as a plague, and anybody who took part in that plague was evil. Think about that. Think about that. Here you are sitting in your normal life, just, you know, sharing with friends and family on Facebook. There's somebody 200 years maybe in the future thinks of you as being evil because you partook in Facebook. You're evil. Or maybe because you, with things the way they're going now, maybe people will think you're evil because you owned a Tesla. You supported Elon Musk, the destroyer of America. You're evil because you owned a Tesla. I mean, we're talking 200 years. We're talking 200 years. They don't know you, but their morals may have shifted to the point where, you know, like I said, maybe social media is evil in their time. You know? So when you suddenly shift your thought pattern to say, well, what's somebody going to think about me in 200 years? Or whatever. And you start to think of all the stuff that you do, and you start to think of, well, you know, how might morals shift in the future? Is this going to be something that people consider evil in the future? Is this going to be something people consider acceptable in the future? You know, am I going to be a moral person in the future? Or are people going to find me immoral? It's a lot to think of, you know? No, you are not allowed to come out yet. I was not ready for you. Gotta put a block there. Gotta put your ass inside. No! Dang it! Get the hell back in there. I'm gonna lose my block now. I lose my block. I didn't lose my block, yay. Haha! Stay in there. He has to register with his bed upstairs. Oh, crap. Well, I'm going up the outside. But anyways, yeah, so when I judge people, I never judge people on the times. I never judge people on the times. The time a person came from is the time a person came from. What was acceptable then was acceptable then. It's not for me to judge with today's morals how moral or immoral someone was in their day and age. It's not for me. It's not for me to judge. Because I don't have the same morals as them. I'm not from the same time period. I didn't exist then. If I existed back when, you know, middle-aged white men were slave owners, would I have a slave? Would I? I don't know. It was acceptable then. Would I have one? I don't know. I might. And I say I might because I don't know. If it was acceptable back then, if I had the morals of people back then, back when it was acceptable, can you say for sure that you wouldn't have owned a slave? I don't think anybody can. Because you don't live in that time period. Your morals aren't from that time period. Your morals are from today. And today, your morals think slavery is wrong. So even if you answer that question, even if you say no, period, never would have had a slave, never would have owned a slave, you don't know for sure because your morals are controlled by your current life, not by that time period. So you don't know. So just looking for some forest wood here. Some mod packs have like edging that you can use for roofs. This one does not. So I'm kind of at a loss here. Ugh. Oh, although I do know I need some more polished diorite because there is something with that I do not like. Anyway, yeah, I don't like this wood piece here because it's the only wood piece other than this one way over here. I do not like. Do not like. Oh, I just knocked down the lantern that was inside. Thankfully, it did not burst on the ground and start fire, because some mod packs they do. But that doesn't mean I have to go in and fix that light. Dang it. I don't want to risk him getting out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in on the second floor. we're going to go in there. Use our mage blocks. Hang that light back up. And then get the heck out. Oh! Did not mean to drop all that way. Yeah, I kind of wish I had a trim on that. Wish I would have brought out the roof a little more, like that. But he's in his house. We did finish a house, which is what I wanted to do today. I mean, I spent literally an hour running around just talking. Which, hopefully some of you guys are here for. I don't know. And I am going to get those other videos uploaded after I finish recording this one, which I think I'm gonna put a button in this. We got that building done. It's not as fancy as I wanted it to be. In fact, it's downright plain. I might have to come up with some way of dressing it up. Maybe put a balcony off of the edge there or something. A second-story balcony or something. Just something to dress it up a little bit. Yeah, I could put a second-story balcony there. I wish I had some decorations, because it would be nice to have the ability to put, like, excuse me. I do have some decorations. I shouldn't say I don't have any, but it would be nice to put like a spyglass or something up on that edge, just to make it look like he's got some astrology going on, you know. But I'm pretty sure I don't have anything like that, or anything even close to that. Nothing that looks like a telescope. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't think I have anything that looks close to a telescope to put up there. All these wood types. See, there's a lot of decoration options. I haven't gotten into these yet. A lot of these. Some other light options. Well, now wait, I have create. I wonder if I could use create to make something that looks kind of like a telescope. But it has to be on an angle. No, I don't know that I could. I might just have to take a peek. Take a peek online and see if maybe there's some compact telescope builds, like just using Minecraft blocks, just to make it look like a telescope. And then I can build a deck, like a second-story deck, and I can put a telescope on it. And that'll give it the panache I'm looking for. That'll give it the little bit of panache there that I'm looking for. Make it stand out a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. There are quite a bit of pieces that might be able to turn into something that looks like a telescope. See, there's Macaw's stuff in here. I thought Macaw's had a telescope. I was almost certain Macaw's had a telescope. But I think it was like a decor thing. I think it was like Macaw's decor or something like. Oh, there's the edges. These parapets. They just don't have a parapet in the style that I built. So maybe I'll look at grabbing a maybe a diorite parapet and just putting it around the edge. So it'll give it a little nicer look to it. But yeah, I thought Macaw's had a whole decorative section with that did have a scope in it. I guess not. I guess not. There are definitely some interesting things. Possibly a way I could do it is I think there's a pedestal. If I build a pedestal and maybe put a spyglass on it, that might. Ooh, look at all of these. That might, because yeah, the spyglass is in this version of Minecraft. So there's the spyglass. Pedestal. And there are some pedestals like this one that you can just put objects on. So maybe if I put just the spyglass on a pedestal, it'll look enough like a telescope, and then I'll build a deck off the side. But unfortunately, if I want to get these videos uploaded, I'm gonna have to call it a day and get started doing some editing and uploading. So I'm gonna end this video here. I mean, great discussion. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, I was the only one talking, but you know, but you know, I had a discussion. But yeah, so I will see you guys next time. You take care. This is Jody and signing off. Have a good one. See you. Bye.